It's been an interesting season for college football quarterbacks, and our final quarterback power rankings are here. We're going to take a look at the top quarterbacks from the 2025 season and see who all shined this season. Starting with number 12 is Byron Brown, USF star quarterback, had a phenomenal year and a big reason why Alex Golesh is now Auburn's head coach. It'll be interesting to see what he does in the future. This is an extremely talented quarterback that I think is still flying under the radar. Doesn't get a ton of attention in the group of five level, and especially when USF fell out of the American Conference title race, Brown didn't exactly get the love he deserved. Threw for over 3,100 yards, 28 touchdowns. He also rushed for 1,000 yards and 14 more scores. He was the big time star for this offense, and it was an offense that dealt with plenty of injuries. But this is a guy who continued to play well, continued to be a big time playmaker. And when USF needed someone to get it done, he was the guy to do it. Next is going to be Sawyer Robertson. His team didn't have the success that maybe they wanted, but Robertson was an absolute gunslinger. Over 3,600 yards passing, 31 touchdowns. The 12 interceptions was a little bit disappointing, but there were a number of things that contributed to that. Still a solid season for him. You look at what Baylor did this year, not a great performance, but they are looking to bounce back next season. Robertson was a big time playmaker at times. That offense was full of talent. Now, there were obviously some inconsistencies with that group, but Sawyer Robertson was really fun to watch. Duke's Darian Mensah had a great year, and when Duke brought him in from the transfer portal, there were some questions about, was he going to live up to the hype? Was he going to live up to the money they were giving him? And I would say through a first year, he did pretty well. Over 3,400 yards, 28 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions. Duke's offense had great moments. They had some struggles as well, but overall, the offense looked really good. And that helps because this defense struggled mightily. And now Duke finds themselves in the ACC championship. And a big reason for that is Darian Mensah and the offense. Texas A&M's Marcel Reed took huge strides in 2025. Under Colin Klein, his offensive coordinator, Reed developed tremendously as a passer. And that was the big question we had for this offense and for him. Can he be a better passer? Now, the final game of the season wasn't his greatest performance. Saw some definite struggles in his game, some moments where he didn't make the right decision, but overall, this season was very good for him. Nearly 3,000 yards passing, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, also ran for 466 yards and 6 more scores. Texas A&M is on their way to the college football playoff, and a big reason for that was the development of Marcel Reed. North Texas exploded in 2025. The American Conference title participant sends their head coach to Oklahoma State because of this season. And a big reason for their success, Drew Mestemaker. This is a guy who came into the season with a competition. There was a competition at the quarterback position, and he took control early and often. 3,800 yards, 29 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions. The offense was absolutely explosive. He also added 5 touchdowns on the ground as well. So this is a guy who did a little bit of everything for this offense, for this team. And this is a team that was really fun to watch. And they're not done yet. Playoff opportunity is still on the table, and we'll see what they can do if they get to that point. Georgia Tech's Haynes King had a great year, and the season didn't end how Georgia Tech wanted it to, but their quarterback gave them every chance that they could. Over 2,600 yards passing, which isn't crazy, 12 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, but 922 yards and 15 touchdowns was very impressive. I think that his numbers aren't going to impress you compared to a lot of the guys on this list, but make no mistake about it, Haynes King was an absolute gamer for Georgia Tech. And this is an offense that was dealing with some turnover, playmakers not being able to step up, inconsistent play, injuries, all those sorts of things. Haynes King, through and through, was the big reason why they had their success, why they were consistent. He was super fun to watch, and he's easy to cheer for. Georgia Tech had a good run, nearly makes it to the ACC championship game, and Haynes King was a massive reason why. Trinidad Chambliss was the star that came out of nowhere, especially for Ole Miss. I think everybody thought that Austin Simmons was going to be the guy, and then some inconsistent play and injuries thrust Chambliss into the starting role. Now, there were some questions about his ability to start at the SEC level coming from Division II Ferris State. He quickly answered those questions and gave Ole Miss a big-time playmaker at quarterback. Over 3,000 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. Very impressive for a D2 transfer. He also ran for 470 yards and 6 more touchdowns. He is going to get a chance to play in the college football playoff. The whole situation surrounding Ole Miss obviously has been disappointing with Lane Kiffin, but their offense is still very dangerous because Charlie Weiss Jr. is coming back to call plays for that offense, and it's going to be interesting to see how they fare without their head coach. Ty Simpson had his moments of struggles, but he also had a really good year. Over 3,000 yards passing, 25 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. But the one thing I think that stood out once we realized, oh, this is a guy who's taking a step as a passer, is that his legs were also a factor. Now, he didn't rush for a ton of yards, only 126, but he did have 2 touchdowns. He did have some big runs in key moments. So again, he wasn't going to be this dual threat that puts up big numbers in the run game, but he was a factor as a runner. His mobility kept plays alive. His mobility allowed his receivers to get open. And then we got to see the arm talent. The arm talent was what we knew about him. We knew that he was capable of making some of these big time throws, and the wide receiver talent that he had, it was really fun to watch him compete at this level. Ty Simpson is going to be really fun regardless of what he does in the future. And his season in 2025 is a reason why Alabama is in the SEC championship game and has a big time opportunity ahead of them in the college football playoff. Vanderbilt was the surprise of the SEC this year. I think a lot of people expected them to be competitive, but I don't know if a lot of people anticipated the season they ended up having. Now, a big reason for that was quarterback Diego Pavia. We knew what he was capable of doing, but he took his game to another level. 3,100 yards passing with 27 touchdowns. He also ran for 826 yards and 9 more scores. He's campaigning for the Heisman Trophy. Vanderbilt is trying to get into the college football playoff, and they have a pretty solid case. This is a solid team. Clark Lee has done a great job of developing his program, building that culture, and a big piece for that was Diego Pavia. Without him, I don't know how well this whole process goes, but Pavia deserves a lot of recognition for what he's done, not only this year, but overall for Clark Lee and what he's done at Vanderbilt as well. Dante Moore may not have the numbers that a lot of these other guys have, but he was an absolute stud for Oregon. And part of his struggles were, one, injuries himself, but injuries around him. The rushing attack didn't have a ton of problems with that, but the wide receivers and tight ends felt like they were dropping like flies every now and then. And it started before the season began. He lost Evan Stewart, one of his top targets coming into the year, and he's lost a number of players, especially recently. And Oregon's done a great job of just winning football games. They're not concerned with numbers. They're not concerned with stats. They are trying to win football games, and they've done a great job of that. So while Dante Moore only threw for over 2,700 yards and 24 touchdowns, he has shown that he's a great quarterback in his abilities. His numbers aren't going to rival really any of the top guys, but you're looking at a guy who in the clutch makes big time throws. He has the potential to be the number 1 overall pick in the upcoming draft. He could also return to Oregon. That's going to be an interesting situation to watch develop. Dante Moore lived up to the expectations we had for him. The talent was clearly there as well. So Dante Moore, big year for the Oregon Ducks, big year for him. And even with the adversity that they faced, he continued to thrive. Fernando Mendoza's success this year was a little bit surprising. We knew he was talented. We knew he had ability. But there were questions about, was he going to be able to take Indiana to that next level? Now, you can make an argument that having Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper Jr. helps things, and that would definitely be true. But Fernando Mendoza had the talent and definitely took his game to another level. 2,700 yards, 32 touchdowns, also had 243 yards and 6 more scores. He was so fun to watch, and a big reason why his numbers aren't as good as they could have been is Indiana crushed a bunch of teams where he wasn't playing a ton. And again, they weren't necessarily concerned about his numbers. They weren't concerned about a Heisman campaign. he's still in it, but they weren't worried about that. They were worried about winning football games, and that's exactly what they turned their attention to. And finally, at number one, to me, Julian Sayin is the top quarterback. I think the argument is between Julian Sayin and Fernando Mendoza in 2025. And Sayin, to me, gets the nudge here. I thought that Julian Sayin did a great job of developing over the course of the season. And this coaching staff deserves a lot of credit for what they were able to do with him. I think at times they did hold him back, but once they saw what he was capable of doing, and then also when you combine that with the talent he had at wide receiver, it's kind of easy to see that we probably should let this guy do his thing. Over 3,000 yards, 30 touchdowns to just 5 interceptions. Throwing to Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate is going to make any quarterback look better, but you also need to take advantage of those opportunities. Sayin's accuracy is on another level. He knows where to put the ball to give his playmakers the best chance to succeed, and he has looked like the best quarterback in college football this year.